Hello everyone! Welcome to my channel, Memory Keeping with Megan. I have been so excited to do this layout ever since I saw Stampin' Up's A Little Latte Designer Paper Series. This is double-sided paper and I have laid it out here with both sides showing for your viewing. It has some really great colors in it, such as the Kalispel Coral, Lemon Lolly, and my absolute favorite, Lost Lagoon. You know, sometimes you come across some papers that just remind you of some pictures or an event that you know the papers would be perfect for a layout. Well, that is exactly what happened to me with A Little Latte. The pictures and the times that I will be memorializing today are about going to visit my grandma with my dad, sitting around her kitchen table, sharing stories while they drank coffee. For some embellishments, I will be using this clean stamp set from Stampin' Up titled Coffee with Friends. As I was planning out this layout, looking through some sketchbooks, and thinking about layout design and what embellishments that I could use, I recalled some paper that I made several months ago. So simple and so easy to make. I took some white cardstock and wadded it up. I wadded it as tight as I could and then unfolded it. Doing this to the paper just adds some texture and different dimensions. I inked it up on the creases with the Close to My Heart acorn and intense black. I repeated this process several times. And while I really love the Little Latte papers and I thought this was the perfect paper to use for my background, well, that is until I was watching, it's probably Sharon on YouTube. She showed how to make coffee stained paper and how easy it is. I was instantly amazed at how beautiful the papers were. Creative, quick, and easy. And I knew I had to try this technique. So here are some that I made. This is using a stencil. Next, I sprinkled coffee grounds all around. Here, I used Himalayan salt. For this one, I soaked stream in the coffee and then scattered it all about the page. I used 3 different sizes of circles. 2 of them were the rims of wine glasses, and 1 was a lid off of a spray starch can. I have used cheap coffee with no sugar in it. I have in my cup a little bit more than 12 ounces of hot water. Use twice as much coffee grounds as to what the directions say on the container. When I showed my stain papers to a friend the other day, she asked me if the paper was still acid-free. Great question, something I hadn't even thought about in all of my excitement. So I did some research and learned that some people add 1 teaspoon of baking soda to their coffee mixture to reduce the acidity. Be prepared for this to make your coffee overflow. I was so surprised when this happened to me while recording this video. I'm using a foam flat paintbrush. I am painting the paper in one motion as much as I can from top to bottom. I am hardly applying any pressure and paying close attention to not flick it so I won't flick coffee all over the place. I cover the entire side, flip it over, and do the same thing on this side. I'm not using any special type of cardstock for this, such as watercolor cardstock. This is just regular cardstock. It does curl the paper a bit, so what you can do is iron it after it is completely dry. To dry my papers, I leave them out overnight on parchment paper. I am using 2 different sizes of wine glasses and a small lid from a spray can. I'm just scattering the circles about randomly, not thinking of a pattern at all, just what seems right in my eyes. You do have to have a decent amount of coffee on the lids or the rims for darker imprints. I follow this same process of completely painting the cardstock with coffee each time for the different pattern ideas I'm about to show you. When sprinkling coffee grounds, know that the chunks of coffee grounds will add bigger splotches to your design. With the stencils, I paint coffee back over the stencil once I've placed it down to have a darker shade. With the Himalayan salt, I try and cover the entire page with it. Since returning to scrapbooking, I feel one of my best tool purchases I have made has been this Misty Stamp Positioner, mainly because it provides for consistent stamping. There were times when I would hand stamp something and it didn't come out inked all over the place. in the right places. So I would re-ink my stamp and stamp again, only to have my paper look like a blurred image, even when I use the acrylic blocks. Another stamping tool I really like is this pressure tool. Using this tool really reduces the strain on my hands and saves me from some pain on those days that my hands are really hurting. It's so easy to glide over the top of the MISTI. I've also used it with acrylic blocks as well. I'm inking the stamps with the Close to My Heart Intense ink. When you are stamping and know that you're going to color your image, you want to look for ink that is waterproof and non-smearing. I purchased the magnets with my MISTI and didn't use them because I didn't know and I was really uncomfortable with them. But after having several times in which my paper moved around on me, I started using the magnets. Here's the chamois that I've used before and it's dried out. All I have to do is run water on top of it and ready to use to clean the stamps. I already had one wet for this video, so I'm going to use that one. I used to use baby wipes to clean my stamps, but would find lint stuff on my stamps afterwards. Then, when I would use the stamp next, especially the ones with finer details such as words, I would have hair-looking images on my stamped project, and sometimes things would blur up. So this chamois saves your stamps from being exposed to the chemicals as well. I want to show you how well this chamois cleans your stamps. It leaves no trace behind. I am going to use my tri-blend markers to color my stamped images. I'm using the Fair-Skin Blend, Golden Brown Blend, True Blue shades, and Coral shades. I've been really hesitant to use my markers. It's just one of those things that has scared me to use because what if I ruin it? And all sorts of different crazy little thoughts running through my head. But after taking a class at my local scrapbook store, LS Scrapbook Boutique in Lee Summit, Missouri, I feel more comfortable and confident in my abilities and understanding of the shading process. Overall, I'm learning that you just have to play around with all your different supplies and your different tools to become familiar with how they work. It does not have to be perfect at all. I like to think of that acronym FAIL and what it stands for, First Attempt in Learning, because learning is a process and you only get better and more comfortable with the things when you practice with them. For my sketch inspiration, I am using Close to My Heart, Make It From Your Heart Vol.6. I am using pattern 12. I love to use sketches as a guide to give me ideas for where to place my pictures, the paper, and embellishments. You can copy a sketch 100% or deviate from it to meet your liking. Depending on the time that I have, I use the sketches both ways, copycat it 100% or I will modify it. I have stuck down my coffee stained paper with the base paper with glue dots to my Versamat so that my paper doesn't move around while I'm building the layout. The paper's slightly wavy, but once I get things laid down, it'll be fine. I've chosen 3 different colors from the Stampin' Up! Neutrals color family paper pack: Early Espresso, Pecan Pie, and Crumb Cake. I am using Crumb Cake as my first layer. I do tend to have some sort of solid color against the patterned cardstock to break up the busyness. I feel that it's visually appealing, like bringing the calm to the storm. I'm not going to go all the way across the page with this layer. I'm going to cut it down to about 6 inches wide and 9.5 inches long on the right side. And then I'm going to make it shorter, about 2 inches shorter on the other side. If you watched my craft room tour video, you may have noticed that I have 5 different brands of paper trimmers that I've purchased over this past year. My favorite one is from Stampin' Up! It cuts smoothly, cleanly, and completely through the paper consistently. The space of it is wider than most of the others. The markings for the ruler are clear and easy to read, and it has more graduations than the others for the different projects that I work on. It has the cutting and the scoring blade on it, so that lessens my tool supply that I need to take to crops. It's also sturdier built than all of the others, which is another plus for taking to crops. Pecan Pie will be my second layer. I chose this color as I felt that it brought some of the background color back out. I also like to layer papers in my layouts as I feel that it adds some depth, which I feel is something that catches the viewer's eye. I feel that all the different cardstock on a layout helps tell the story or creates the atmosphere for the pictures. This is going to be about 3.5 by 11 inches and 8.5 by 11 inches. Digging into my tool stash for this magic matter, I'm going to use this to map my photos before adhering them to my layout. I felt that the color of early espresso would make my pictures pop a bit more off of the pages. I have a 1/8 of the white border printed with the picture, so I'm wanting to have the same 1/8 inch border with the early espresso. It's been a while since I've used the Magic Matter, but it is really easy to use once you get the hang of it. It just reminds me a little bit of a spirograph. Now comes the process of laying the pictures out, looking for the right placement, choosing what embellishments to use, where, and what will help tell the story. I ended up placing the coffee cups with the people that they represented. I also feel like the cups of coffee pictures are the ones that are going to catch the viewer's eyes first and pique their interest in why does she have pictures of coffee in here? What's the story with that? I feel that there's a fine balance to adding embellishments to your layouts, like they could make or break the layout. I like to think of the embellishments as the supporting cast. I really want to have the clock on this page, a way of symbolizing the passing of time. So when placing the embellishments, I go by the rules of like 3 in a triangle. So to me, I'm going to need embellishments in the bottom left corner and up in the top in the middle. I wanted to memorialize the story of Grandma's coffee. She drank coffee at any time of the day, and my dad did too, and I do too. And Grandma always puts her cup in a bowl. The coffee always overflowed into the bowl. If you're old enough to remember the Maxwell House commercial about coffee being good to the last drop, she took it seriously because she even drank the coffee that was in the bowl. I remember sometimes she would have biscuits ready to go with the coffee. I didn't drink coffee at the time, so she always had cans of Shasta root beer in the fridge for her grandkids. I started drinking coffee about 5 years ago, and more times than not, I always think about my dad or grandma while I'm drinking my cup of coffee. To me, it's kind of like having a cup of coffee with them. Things looked really heavy with the clock and everything on the right side, so I needed to balance things out over in the bottom left. I fussy cut all of my embellishments, well, most of them, from that paper pack that I had in my stash. And speaking of stash, I needed something for my title. I didn't want to get my Cricut out, so I dug into my stash and found these alphabet stickers I've had for years. So using my T-ruler, I was able to get them placed in a straight line. Well, then I later decided to move the title to the top of the page in a cluster rather than spreading it out across both pages. Again, it was something more visually pleasing. I'm happy with the way that this layout turned out. I was going for a more antique coffee look, and I believe that I achieved that look. I really hope that you enjoyed my video today and that you were able to take away a few tips or some ideas. I'm looking forward to your comments and any thoughts that you have. If you liked what you saw, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already so you can be notified of new videos, and share my channel with friends and family.